The Day of the Triffids by John Wyndham is a 1951 published ecological post-apocalyptic book with sort of elements of a bit of horror, elements of a bit of science fiction as well. I know this is in the SF Masterworks, but this is the Penguin edition I've got here. This is a fantastic book, 4.5 star read. I've had it on my physical TBR for a while, bought it last year, and I've been really looking forward to reading it. I knew I would like it. Again, this is a book that you'll see on all the top 10 post-apocalyptic books list for sure, because it is just that good. And so this book it's got a lot of things to it. We follow our main character, what is his name? Bill Mason, and Bill wakes up in the hospital, kind of on some Rick Grimes, The Walking Dead vibes, but obviously this predates that by like 60 years. And Bill wakes up to find that everything's kind of quiet, a bit too quiet. There's no traffic, there's no busyness, there's no human activity. And so he's a bit paranoid at the start to like take his blindfold off because he's just using his hearing senses, right? And when he does, he kind of he learns that the world has gone blind, and only a few people have survived. And so he wakes up. This hospital is in Piccadilly, so West London, and we're based in the UK, really the London and the surrounding counties, and kind of the south of England as well, eventually. And so this story is about Bill looking for survivors and trying to build a life in this new world. The Triffids are these plants. So there's risks now. So in a normal post-apocalyptic book, there's always risks. Society has collapsed. You got to rebuild everything. Everything is quite primitive now, right? But what Wyndham does really well is add in the ecological threat as well with the Triffids. And the Triffids are these plants that are man-made. So there's a bit of, I guess, subtle, maybe criticisms, but subtle themes at least of, capitalism and greed, and sort of mixing, sort of weaponizing nature. And maybe not even weaponizing it, utilizing nature for its, its values that we need, and then having to deal with the consequences of that. So these Triffids are these man-made plants by, I guess, a guy from the Soviet Union. And we kind of get this at the start of the book as well. And really what, in this world, they were extracting these like vital oils from Triffids. And they're also actually quite nutritious, as we learn later on in the book. And so people in this world would have Triffids as plants. Obviously companies were using them for their, their resources. And eventually they just became a part of everyday life. Bill documents that, I think he was some sort of biochemist or some sort of biologist. And he worked for a company that really researched and tested and experimented on Triffids. So he's quite knowledgeable, and we get flashbacks about his past life, with conversations with colleagues and what he was doing at work as they're trying to figure out more about these Triffids. And and so all that's interesting, right? It adds very important backstory to what the Triffids are. And the Triffids have these stingers that can stretch out to about 6 feet long and like sting you in the flesh and poison you, and it's essentially kill you. And that's what happened to Bill at the start. That's why he's in hospital. He was at work. He had an accident at work. The Triffids stung him in his eye. Luckily, his colleague acted quickly, because if you don't act quickly with the sting, it will kill you. But if you act quickly, you'll be sick for a while, but you will recover. And so he got stung in the eye, hence why he was blindfolded. And so what happened was that's the Triffids. That's the Triffids. And they can get up and they can walk when they're like fully matured, and they have these stick things, and they can sort of communicate, and they can sort of hear as well. They're very intelligent creatures. And we see the consequences of that in this world where everyone's gone blind as we progress in the book. But what is sort of like the most interesting thing? I just literally lost the thought I was gonna say about the Triffids. That's what I was gonna say. So I just remembered. So why everyone went blind is that there was this sort of comet. This is ambiguous, but there's this sort of comet that made the sky flash green, and so everyone who looked at this sort of cosmic event, hence you see the on the front cover here, you got the people looking up, and then the comet, and I like that this is in green as well. It's actually very fitting. Um, Everyone and most people, it's kind of like a solar eclipse, right? People like to like see these like once in a lifetime events, the northern lights and all that good stuff. And so everyone basically went blind. And as we meet more and more people who can still see, we learn about how different ways that they might have been drunk and just passed out during that time. They might have been sick and just gone for sleep during that period. And obviously in Bill's case, he was in hospital. So Bill kind of comes into London. He's exploring London. He's kind of feeling his way around, a very crowded city that's mainly full of blind people in despair in the streets, um, just not knowing what to do. And he grapples with a lot of ethical dilemmas in terms of like, is his role as a person who can see, is it to gather up all everyone else who can see and just live within a community with them, or should they lead blind people to food and actually keep them alive for as long as possible with like all the remaining food that has already been made, that's just sitting there on the shelves and whatnot and in storerooms. And so yeah, we the second sort of protagonist in this book is Josella, and we meet her early on in the book in London with Bill, and they sort of stay together, and they find other people who are who have sight, who are trying to form communities, and you got different conflicting ideologies with a lot of people who can see. Some believe that they have to sort of go to sort of like secluded place that can sort of sustain itself, that has its own water supply and all that good stuff, and fertile lands and enough room for everyone to sleep and grow community within. And there are others who think that the sighted should be taking care of the blind. And so there's a whole bunch of things that happen in this book that we kind of go back and forth between the two. I This book is a very nice steady pace. John Wyndham, his prose is kind of like this old school English style prose. It's kind of like, what when people think about like old sort of Victorian style writing and sentiments and sensibilities, it's kind of like that, but it's not dated because he doesn't go full scale with it. It's not like some sort of like he's writing as if it's some sort of royal decree in the Victorian era or anything like that. Things that make like if you read it now seems ridiculously outdated, even if just the sentences are structured and the way certain words are put before other words and all that good stuff. There's a bit of that in here, but it doesn't. But it's charming because Wyndham, it's kind of strange. He doesn't go full scale with it, right? And so it's kind of charming and it seems fresh. Like even though you can tell it's a classic and it was written, definitely not in the 21st century. There's still something very elegant and casual and up to date. But also, I think that the most prominent adjective would be is charming prose, which is pretty good. So Wyndham does on that, and I think that's the reason why a lot of people in modern times love this book and can it's very accessible, easily readable, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's very well liked because it really the pros stand the test of time, even though he does dip into the sort of proper Englishman sensibilities and I guess writing structures of some sorts. But yeah, the characters in here are good as well. Um, there are some spots in the book where it's like you're waiting for that next step within the apocalyptic world, the post-apocalyptic world. Um, but they're few and far between, mainly because Wyndham does a good job of staying on the mission and like the mission and the ethical dilemmas that the characters are grappling with, and just the adventures that happen. It kind of helps because it moves the story along so much that you're not waiting for some sort of, like, I don't know, next level thing to happen. It's quite strange, but it's done really well. Hence why it's 4.5 star. But it's there, and I really, 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 really like this book. Um, but yeah, but there are some like dead zones. Kind of like when you got like phone signal. Like sometimes it's good. You move to your left a bit, and like you're in a bit of a dead zone. We do get some of that in the book where it's like I'm reading it and I'm like, okay, I understand this, but like you know the 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 thing that's happened in this world, like the apocalyptic event, is just so mind-boggling that we're a bit too much in a narrow scope. We should be just out there. I don't know. It's weird. But again, it's nothing that sort of derails the book. It's just more of a preference, I say, for my post-apocalyptic taste. But yeah, very good book. Definitely highly, highly recommended for sure. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe and let us know what you think in the comments. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.